Yes. So it is really my pleasure as Abhishek Jani, the CEO of Fairtrade India Project of Center for Social Markets, to invite you all for today's webinar. Today, we are going to delve deeper into what Fairtrade is doing, both in the context of its core work and the standards and the implementation of that, the impact that that would have created in the context of cotton cultivation, but also going a little beyond that in the context of the programs that we're doing to promote decarbonization in the textiles value chain. A lot of our work today will be focusing on India, but actually there is a pretty strong concentration of both producer organizations and the volume of cotton produced in the fair trade system, as well as the supply chains of the Fairtrade-certified ecosystem for cotton textiles, which are based in India. So in many ways, hopefully this will be relevant to all of you and will be relevant to the work in your supply chains and with your commercial partners as well. So with that in mind, I again take this opportunity to welcome you all and very briefly would like to share with you the agenda for today. So we will start today with a very brief overview and focused overview on the resource or environmental footprints which were measured in a piece of research called Evaluating the Environmental Impact of Fairtrade Certified Cotton in India. So I would take you through this research, which was done by Global Agri Systems for us. And hopefully there'll be some good insights there for you to understand what is the situation on the ground today with regards to cotton cultivation under Fairtrade certified conditions. As we all know, cotton or the raw material component of any supply chain is captured in the scope 3 impact of greenhouse gas emissions and is the largest component of any carbon footprint of a product. So this would hopefully provide some valuable inputs and insights of what is happening in the Fairtrade certified supply chain. Following that, we would have a brief panel discussion straight from the ground where we'll be joined by Mr. R. Nandakumar, who is the CEO of Chetna Organic, one of the oldest certified Fairtrade cotton producer organization and an SPO in the Fairtrade system. And we would also be joined by Mr. Manoj Kumar, who's a senior program manager at Fairtrade NAP, Network of Asia Pacific Producers. We would then move further up the value chain or further into the value chain with details about the Fairtrade programs for decarbonization in value chain presented by Mr. Senthilnathan, the senior program manager for textile sustainability at Fairtrade India. And then we would have a case study from Mr. Vignesh Kumar Shaktivel, the CEO of the Jerwell Impex, about just transition for textiles industry, particularly in the context of the MSMEs and how we're collaborating with them. We hope that this whole program will be wrapped up in 50 to 55 minutes, max stops on the hour. And following that, we would be having at least half an hour of question and answer sessions. So I would really welcome all as you hear the program today, as you hear from the different speakers. I would welcome you all to please add any questions you have onto the Q&A box that you will see below on the screen in front of you. And we may, if time permits, also allow some speakers to come and ask questions directly live. So, but in either eventualities, we'd really welcome questions to be mentioned in the box, and the panelists will all come together and the relevant panelists will respond to that. So yes, looking forward to a great hour and a half ahead with all of you. And so I jump straight into the first session, which relates to our research that we conducted. So the research that we conducted on represented a sample of over 800 cotton farmers consisting of both Fairtrade and non-Fairtrade certified, who were the non-Fairtrade certified farmers who we call the control farmers across India, covering the states of Punjab, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Telangana, and Tamil Nadu. The research was covering about 10 producer organizations who were certified at the time when the sampling was being undertaken. The research was conducted by Global Agri Systems Private Limited, an independent research agency based out of India, but with extensive field experience of data collection in agricultural value chain and also prior experience of collecting data for cotton value chains. So through an independent process, we managed to collect this data. The sampling was done through a systematic random sampling approach, and the samples were selected through a sample interval process. Those who would like to learn more about the research and the methodology, I would again urge you to read the full piece of research or specific sections which may be relevant to you. The research is published and is available on fairtrade.net. Under the library, you can look for cotton research and you would find it. So the full detail is there. Today, we are bringing in very specific excerpts which represent the carbon footprint as well as the water footprint. And then we'll be happy to take on questions around that at the end of today's presentation. The scope of the research, again, was based on the Delta framework. This is a framework where Fairtrade had in the past collaborated with the ISEAL project, and through ISEAL, we had conducted some preliminary tests of the Delta framework. So it has 15 indicators, and specific indicators from that were used, and the methodology of the Delta framework was applied to that. Specifically with regards to the footprint measurements, this was for the GHG, or the greenhouse gas footprints, and the water footprints. The Cool Farm tool methodology and tool was used. So we had, again, extensively applied this both to the control as well as what we call the project farmers in the research. The limitations of the study. So before I jump into sharing the insights of what was found in the research, I'd like to share that the methodology, as in most cases for capturing footprint data at the farm level, relied on farmer recollection of practices over the last crop cycle. So whatever were the previous cropping cycle practices, those were captured, and then either estimates were used, or in the case of greenhouse gas, we used the Cool Farm tool methodology to convert those different indicators into a measurement of the footprint. What we've seen is that in India, there is a very, very strong overlap between fair trade and organic farming practices. In fact, most of the Fairtrade-certified cotton farmers are also certified for organic or are in conversion organic farmers. So as a result, the research right now would represent the status quo, what is happening on the ground today, and what is available today as fair trade, which has an overlap with organic and in conversion organic cultivations. So, but the main reason why we should still utilize this research is because if you're sourcing your cotton from India today, this sample would represent the impact created by the cotton that you are buying today. Whether you're buying it as organic or as conventional, it is fair trade cotton today would represent the findings from this research. So as such, it is representative of what is happening on the ground today. Another limitation is that while we captured the data from 10 producer organizations, they were at different stages of organic and fair trade certification. Some of them were literally 1 year into the fair trade certifications, while some were into it for over 8 years. So there was this slight limitation, and because of the limitations in the sample sizes, we were not able to, again, decouple those effects. So again, that's another limitation to keep in mind. And final limitation, which is a significant one to keep in mind, is that these findings that we will be sharing today represent the national averages on the key indicators. And this may mask regional variations in agricultural practices across the country. So with those caveats in place, I'm now very happy to share with you the major findings of the research, particularly with reference to the greenhouse gas footprint and water footprint. So if we look at the data, the exciting news was that the greenhouse gas emissions was significantly lower for what we call the FOIC farmers, or the fair trade organic and in conversion farmers. You can see on the table on the screen that the GHG emissions per hectare for FOIC farmers was 36.7% lower than the control conventional farmers in the same region. So this is a like for like in the same region. The samples of the control farmers were picked up from the same region across all the different states that we had done the research in. The GHG emissions per kg of seed cotton is 37.5% lower for FOIC farmers than control conventional farmers. This, again, the seed cotton calculation brings into the productivity aspect as well. So therefore, there's a slight variation, but in the ballpark, they are pretty similar. What we find is that the GHG emission per hectare for fair trade organic farmers is 46.8% lower than the control conventional farmers. So I think when we remove the in-conversion farmers, what we see is that the GHG footprint is actually better, and that is captured in the data here. And we see that the productivity for the fair trade organic farmers is also higher, which is then represented in the higher savings that we are seeing for the GHG emissions per kg of seed cotton, which is 64.9% lower for fair trade organic farmers compared with the controlled conventional farmers in the same region. Now, if we were to dive in deeper, and if we were to understand what are the factors contributing to these different GHG emissions, what we see is that in the context of fair trade, organic and in conversion, and fair trade organic farmers, a significant part of the lower footprint is coming on account of the limited use of synthetic fertilizers. So this fertilizer production itself, so wherever the farmers, the fair trade, organic and in-conversion farmers, wherever they're using fertilizers, they're using natural fertilizers mostly. So as you can see, only a very small number, only 5% of the FOIC farmers are applying synthetic nitrogenous fertilizers compared to 91% of the controlled conventional farmers who are using synthetic nitrogenous fertilizers. So most of the fair trade organic and in conversion of the FOIC farmers are using natural fertilizers, organic fertilizers, or they're not using any fertilizer at all. That's basically what's happening there. So there's also a significant percentage, about 29% of the FOIC farmers who do not use any organic or synthetic fertilizers, as opposed to only 3.5% in the control farmers that we see. So I think the use of fertilizers and the type of fertilizers used, both are contributing factors in terms of GHG emissions. And the other significant contribution to the lower footprint is actually on account of the higher carbon stock change that we'll see in the FOIC farmers and the fair trade organic farmers. And this is on account of better tree planting activity amongst the border by the farmers in the fair trade certification system. So those two would be the primary factors. Other factors are also there, but they do not have as significant a contribution on reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. A significant area for improvement, as well as an area where we found some differences while doing the research, was in the context of the residue management practices. So while you can see a lot of the control conventional and the control farmers are burning the residue in field. So when you look at the FOIC and the fair trade organic farmers, that's only 4% and 1%, as opposed to 23% of the control farmers or 26% of the control conventional farmers who are burning the residue in field. So that of course is resulting in emissions. What we see is that 37% of the FOIC farmers are leaving the residue in untreated heaps or pits, or they are undertaking non-forced aeration composting. Now, both of these forms of residue management also result in significant emissions. And these actually offer us an opportunity, and we will hear across today on how those opportunities are beginning to be capitalized on to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So with regards to the greenhouse gas emissions, I think these are the key factors that come into play. When I know today's conversation is more on decarbonization, but just very quickly, also wanted to highlight, since a lot of our stakeholders are interested in water use in cotton cultivation as well, that the fair trade and organic farmers have a lower water footprint by 25.9% compared with the control farmers in the study. The FOIC farmers had about 14.5% lower water footprint compared with control conventional farmers and 15.7% lower than control farmers. Both the Fairtrade and Fairtrade organic and in-conversion farmers and Fairtrade organic farmers have a higher water productivity. So that's basically an inverse of your footprint number. So this is showing that more output is, or more crop is being produced per liter of water. So that is also something which came out. And the primary reason for this, for the higher efficiency or the lower water footprint, was because the Fairtrade organic and in-conversion farmers tend to irrigate their farms less frequently than the control farmers. So that would be the main footprint data. There is a lot more data visible and available with regards to the use of highly hazardous pesticides or the chemical use on farm, which will be available in the full research report published on the Fairtrade International website. So would welcome you all to refer to that if you'd like more details, and a lot more detail also about the methodology and the technical aspects for you to then compare and understand better. But if I was to conclude and provide the main recommendations coming out of this research, what we understand is that we need to now focus, whenever we conduct the next cycle of research, to decouple the impact of the Fairtrade and organic certification. So that is something that has very strongly come out for us. There is a strong overlap. This is, of course, something where across crops, Fairtrade is also seen to be promoting organic or supporting organic practices. But to isolate the effect of Fairtrade, I think we'd have to dive in deeper and look at different sample selection processes for that. I think the primary objective here was to get a sense of the footprint of the status on the ground of the existing farmers, because such a research on such the detailed sample sizes had never been done before. So our focus here was on that. But we take the learnings that we need to now look at how we decouple those findings further. We also have seen that this data that we've provided now, which can be provided at a PO level, has helped and is already helping our producers to take scientific and data-based decision-making for their farming and cultivation practices for cotton. And also, in some cases, they're using this insight on deciding upon how they should use the Fairtrade premium. So the use planning as well is something that this data has been very proactively being used for. This research has highlighted, as I've already shared with you, scope for improvement or reduction in greenhouse gas management through best practices in residue management. And again, many farmers, and we'll actually hear later today about some of those initiatives on how they are adapting and adopting that learning into their practices for residue management. Another insight of the research is that we need to also work on enhancing soil organic carbon content for the cotton farmers. And this lesson is now being taken to a practical level as well. But I think across crops, particularly, I would say in the context of cotton farmers in India, where most of them are smallholder farmers, most of them are growing cotton in rain-fed regions, we need to support these producers with further climate resilience, mitigation, and adaptation strategies. And we need the market operators, the brands, the manufacturers to support them at one level, obviously, to help reduce the overall carbon footprint in those value chains. But at the second level, I think it's also fundamentally to secure your supply chains, to ensure that the farmers are able to sustain the cultivation practices in the face of heightened risks of climate change. So thank you so much. With that, we have ended our first section of today's discussion. This was the research finding, and we will take question and answers at the end of this to kind of understand what questions or doubts people may have. But now we will swiftly move to the next segment of today's discussion and the webinar. I would now like to invite Mr. Nanda Kumar, the CEO of Chetna Organic, and Mr. Manoj from Fairtrade NAP to please join me for a panel discussion. Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Nanda. Good evening, Manoj.
Good evening, Abhishek.
Good evening, Abhishek.
Yeah, welcome. Really my pleasure to have you both here. So I think both of you were very closely involved in the research that I just presented. And so thank you so much for your contribution there. And hopefully the research findings have already started informing your activities. But before we dive into specifics about greenhouse gas emissions, decarbonization, Nandaji, I would like to ask you first, if you could just provide what have been the kind of effects that the cotton farmers at Chetna have been facing as a result of climate change?
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek. Farmers in Chetna have been they're facing a lot of challenges because of the climate change. We Chetna project, we are working in 3 states, and 100% of our farmers are growing their crops under the rain-fed condition. So it's solely dependent on the rains. And if you see, a decade ago, there was a time when the monsoon used to start, and then there is a gap in between for them to do the agriculture operations. And then again, they get a rain. The crop gets again the sufficient amount of water. They do manuring, and that's how the whole process happened. But if you see last 5, 6 years, the onset of monsoon itself is getting delayed. That is number one. Second, when it is raining, it is raining heavily. So when they are sowing the seeds are getting washed off, and they have to re-sow the seed, and many of them don't germinate again because of a dry spell. In the last 3 years, what we observed was the monsoon was late, but it rained, and they were able to grow the crop. After germination of about 1 month, during the weeding time, there is a continuous rain for about 45 days, resulting in weeds growing, and farmers are not able to go into the field and do the weeding operation. So there is a competition of weeds with the main crop. With the result, crop is having a stunted growth and a reduction in the yield. So these are some of the major challenges which the current farmers are facing. And what we understood from the practices which the farmers are adopting in the fields where a lot of chemicals were used, like fertilizers and all, the water stagnation is more because of the chemicals. The lot of using these, the soil became compact, and the water became stagnant, and the crops getting damaged. Compared to the organic farming practices which farmers have been doing for more than 10 years, there the soil water logging is not there, its absorption is there. It's like a spongy type of situation. So these are the current challenges which farmers are really facing with the climate change, whatever is happening, and this is resulting in reduction in the yield in the end of the entire season when they are harvesting. There's a lot of yield reduction is there. More importantly, for farmers who are growing soybean in the rain-fed condition in Maharashtra and in Telangana, so untimely rains. When they harvest time, suddenly there is heavy downspell for about 10 days, so they lose the crop. So these are some of the major challenges which farmers are currently facing in the cropping agriculture scenario.
Thank you, sir. I mean, there is no doubt that the farming community is probably at the forefront of facing the brunt of climate change. The sad part is that they probably have made the least contribution to the greenhouse gas emissions, which is resulting in this kind of climatic activity. But moving on that, Nandaji, our research showed that Chetna farmers actually have some of the lowest greenhouse gas emissions. And particularly what we observed was that in Orissa, actually, the cotton cultivation by the Chetna farmers there is almost carbon neutral, as in the emissions are negligible. So we are very keen to understand what are the practices that are being followed in Chetna that are resulting in these lower emissions for your members.
Yeah, in Orissa, as such, there is a good amount of rain compared to Maharashtra and Telangana. So you got a fair bit of rainfall there. That the soils are also very good. So what we have been training farmers and making them adopt the practices is do all on-farm inputs, no external inputs, except because cotton being a hybrid, we are providing non-GM hybrid seeds. And other things are all seeds are all from their own farms. That is one. Second, they don't use any synthetic chemical fertilizer in their cropping cycle for any crops. So all that compost, various types of composting practices, we train them and we make them apply that. On top of that, for crop dressing, because cotton requires frequent nutrient and its one-time application at the basal uh, stage is not be sufficient. At every 30 days, 45 days, you need to we make them spray the liquid nutrient manure liquid with the fermented the concoction which we prepare, what we call as jivamrut, that is sprayed. And for pest management, basic concept what we try to do is make them grow intercrops, short duration intercrops and long duration intercrops, followed by border crops so that there is no drift, and lot of natural enemies population is built. So the pest is controlled. So maintain a biodiversity within that. And these short duration intercrops do help in three, four ways. One, they give additional income to the farmers when they harvest the legumes like, green gram, black gram, and cowpea is a 60 days crop. They get additional income. And the sucking pest, which are the initial pest which attacks the cotton crop, is actually attracted to these leguminous crop. And because these sucking pests attract to these leguminous crop, there are lot of natural enemies population, like more population of ladybird beetles and all, who they control. The other thing is after the harvest of this crop, it is not burnt. It is plowed back, in situ plowing is done into the field, or the crop residue is fed to the cattle, which is again comes back into the soil. So this is one methodology which is actually helping the soil organic carbon content. And top of that, there is also a lot of trees around the bunds. Uh, in Orissa, particularly, the natural biodiversity is there. A lot of trees are there. We are also promoting to, in the whichever places there are no trees, we are also making sure that trees are planted on the bunds. So there are again, we are looking at three, four different species, not a monoculture type. It's all diverse cropping system and plant species.
Super. Amazing, sir. So we can see there's actually a combination of interventions, some which are within the fair trade standards remit, particularly around the residue management, particularly around the non-use of chemicals, toxic chemicals. But then we're going into the organic realm as well, as you said, for the use of the natural compost as opposed to chemical fertilizers. And we are also seeing interventions which are more programmatic, like you're saying, in the context of tree plantation. So I think the research is also showing that these are the factors which have resulted in a lower carbon footprint. And in Orissa, I think we have the best practice of also not, I guess, as you're saying, natural conditions as such, but also they are not using a lot of fuel for irrigation because it's mostly rain-fed, and I guess that region is also not using a lot of mechanization. So again, a lower fuel footprint as well. So I think that's fantastic. But Manoj, I would like to kind of bring you in, speaking more in the context of what we're doing on the ground and where the fair trade interventions are coming in. So both in the context of the standards as well as programs. So starting off with the standards, Manoj, can you share with us specifically how the fair trade standards are supporting lower GHG emissions?
Thanks, Abhishek. As we all know, as per the Fairtrade standards requirement, so crop residue burning is prohibited. And also there is a development requirement or the criteria requirement that reducing the GHG emissions and increasing the carbon sequestration. So this is one of the requirements of Fairtrade standards. So which is really aligning with our studies because the carbon footprint are very low. And also, as Nandaji already explained, so the farmers are using a lot of innovative techniques to reduce the GHG emissions and increasing the carbon sequestration. So in a way, and also the biodiversity. So it's adding to that. So it's directly, complying to the requirement, and the standards are being met by most of the Fairtrade, certified farmers in India.
Super, great. And beyond the standards, Manoj, I know that fair trade world over, but specifically in the context of cotton in India, we have a programmatic approach to support and facilitate farmers to deal with the effects of climate change and to also mitigate effects of climate change. Can you share what you as well as Fairtrade NAP have been doing in terms of this particular aspect?
Yeah, we have been from Fairtrade NAP and also Fairtrade, so we are supporting our cotton producers in various programmatic interventions. Basically, especially we have introduced a new technology called Philo. So this is nothing but a micro weather station. So this works on the basis of AI, artificial intelligence technology, and also IoT, Internet of Changes, and also the machine learning. So it's like an integrated approach for this particular technology. So this particular technology helps in predicting forecasting the weather of the particular region, in the microclimate, and also it predicts the occurrence of pest and disease attack. So if the farmer comes to know that there is a pest attack or disease occurrence that is going to be occurring in a very short span of time, so then they can take up necessary adaptive measures or prophylactic measures to control pest and diseases. And also even the rainfall prediction will also be there. So based on that, they can take up the agronomic practices, and also depending on the moisture level of the soil, so they can also manage their irrigation schedules. So this helps in reducing the irrigation to at least 3-4 irrigations they can reduce in many perennial crops, especially, and also in cotton also, wherever there is an irrigation facility, they can reduce 2-3 irrigations based on the prediction or the forecasting of this weather and also the soil moisture data. Yeah, this has helped our farmers, already is being piloted, and the farmers have used it already, and they are finding it very, very useful. And also the second technology what we have already supporting the farmers, we have done the pilot, is the introduction of this biochar technology. So biochar is actually it's gaining momentum since last 3-4 years actually. So biochar is nothing but carbon rich material which is produced through a process called pyrolysis, where biomass is heated in absence or limited presence of oxygen, which helps in solid residue and then stable and stable rich carbon. So this is nothing but instead of wasting the crop residue, they just burn the crop residue in limited oxygen supply or in no oxygen supply. So this pyrolysis technique helps in trapping the carbon that is there in the crop residue, and when the farmer apply to the crop, so there are various benefits of this biochar. So it helps in water holding capacity, increasing in water holding capacity, and also helps in preventing nutrient losses, helps in absorption of more nutrients from the available fertilizers that is already applied to the soil, and also helps in providing a good structure for building up of beneficial soil microorganisms. So these are the benefits of biochar. We have already done a pilot, and unit will be established soon in one of the producers in NAP region. And also the third and fourth most important aspect is we are supporting the pilot already in place, like afforestation. We support different cotton producers in South India in afforestation project, especially planting of tree species and also forest tree species and also fruit tree species on the bunds and the borders of the farms, where it helps in decreasing the GHG emissions and increasing the carbon sequestration, and also there is a negative carbon stock we can observe. So these are all the different interventions what we are supporting, in actually in India through Fairtrade NAP.
Superb. Yeah, I think that's really quite a comprehensive set of interventions. If you look at it, of course, the standards talk about specific activities within the remit of the fair trade certification, and there's also in the development objectives a whole plan in the standards that must be created for reducing GHG emissions and energy use. But beyond that, NAP is doing a phenomenal job of introducing new technologies which can help farmers deal with the effects of climate change, as you were talking about the phyllo solution, and also other interventions where NAP is introducing farmers to solution providers across India who are dealing with biochar and also the afforestation program. Nandaji, I understand you're at the forefront of a lot of these pilots. So would love to hear what is Chetna doing? What out of these things is Chetna doing as a part of its future plans to reduce further if it was positive? So maybe go negative from carbon neutral. You are on mute, Nandaji.
We are, as I said earlier, that the tree plantation on the bunds is something we have been conceptualizing and implementing it. The reason is we need to build the biodiversity within the field, enhance the biodiversity there, not only for the crop species, but also on the birds and animals and other living beings which has to be grown around, so that a microclimate is created on the above the soil. Simultaneously, if you maintain the biodiversity on the bunds as well as on the fields, if you have multi-cropping with biodiversity within the subsoil also, you can have different species of microorganisms breeding and multiplying, which will help in the building the soil organic carbon and strengthening the soil, and soil fertility is maintained. That is one. Second point. Third point, when you're planting trees on the bunds, because of these erratic rains and sudden downpour, the topsoil is getting washed away. And if you have trees on the bunds, they arrest these topsoil going away, which is retained within the field itself. So this is one intervention. With the help of Fairtrade, we have done this project through a livelihood options through women landless women group, and they have raised about 70,000 nurseries, and this has been implemented in 10 villages, given to the farmers to plant on the bunds. And this has got three different species of trees we have planted. One is nitrogen fixing trees, so that the leaves of those trees can be used to convert into manure and plow back into the field, so that the nitrogen content is sufficiently available in the available form for the plants to absorb. The second is the fruit trees, few fruit trees in the farm, so that whenever a farmer or somebody visits, you always have access to fruits. And when there is fruits, there are different species of birds come around, and they not only take the fruits, they also try to, capture eat away all the larvae which are there in the field. On top of that, we also mixed it with the timber trees, which will actually help in carbon sequestration and also arrest the soil erosion. This is one of the projects which we have already implemented, and the group is continuing for this year also. And the other one, what we are looking was on the, as we said, the crop residue burning is a challenge all over India, which is there, and cotton stalks burning also is happening. So how do we ensure that the cotton stalks are, decomposed and put back? It is a challenge because the lignin content in the cotton stalks is more. It takes a lot of time to compose. So one of the things what we have been studying for the last 3 years, 4 years, we understood that biochar is one of the alternate option, where through, as Mr. Manoj says, through pyrolysis process, you half burn it and then convert them into coal and these stalks, and then incubate with liquid manure, and then put back into the fields, which will help in building the micronutrient and to the soil to give the through the microbes, as well as retain moisture when there is drought period. So crop will look healthy when there is a long dry spell, as compared to the other fields where the biochar is not applied. Apart from that, we within our organization, we are also working on soil health mapping to understand what is the soil organic carbon content before the season. And when the crop is harvested, take the sample and do a testing and see how much of nutrients has been uptaken and how can we further enhance it for the next cropping season. So these are some of these interventions which you are looking at doing it to see how we can work in mitigating the climate change at the farmers level.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nandaji, for sharing that. And just to also share that this method of pyrolysis has been studied as actually reducing the greenhouse gas emissions to the point that one of the pilots that Nandaji is pioneering with biochar in cotton cultivation within the Fairtrade ecosystem could look into also generating carbon credits. So this is a well-established methodology of generating biochar, which does reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and has additional benefits for farmers to even address some of the effects of climate change, like through the application of the biochar on the farm, as Nandaji said, acting like a sponge to retain more moisture and also improve the soil carbon content and soil health. So it has a lot of different aspects which are being addressed through this one intervention, and also providing opportunities for carbon insetting or generation of carbon credits. That is a pilot again that has been worked on. So it's not something that we've already done, but Chetna would be pioneering that. So really appreciate that. In the final 2 minutes, I just want to take on this point about the overlap between fair trade and organic. So as you saw in the research, most of fair trade farmers in India for cotton are also either already organic or are in conversion for organic process. Would you say that there are any specific aspects of the Fairtrade certification or the Fairtrade model which support or facilitate this organic transition or maintaining of the organic system?
Yeah, if you see the Fairtrade standards, whether you see the conventional one or the organic, basically it says that if you're even in the conventional, you're not supposed to use any genetically modified seeds, even if it is a conventional, and also bad pesticides are not used. So basically, Fairtrade is saying that don't use anything which is against the nature, as simple as that. And if it a step ahead of to organic, we have to adhere to all the organic standards. So how this fair trade actually the premium actually helped us in many ways. One of the major thing what we are using the premium is to provide non-GM cotton seeds to farmers. So almost 50% of the seed which we provide is generated from the fair trade premium. On top of that, we also try to provide them a seed kit which has multiple crop seeds, intercrop seeds, as well as 20 varieties of vegetable seeds. Through this premium, we try to provide, apart from all the other social compliances which we use. But for the environmental aspect, this component actually helps the farmers, and we provide these seeds to them, which is helping in building the biodiversity.
Super. Thank you so much, sir. So we're running out of time. I know we can go on with this discussion. Maybe we will pick up more of this during the Q&A session with our delegates and attendees. So I would once again like to thank both Mr. Nandaji and Manoj for joining us and sharing what is happening on the ground with regards to cotton cultivation, which is resulting in a lower carbon footprint and leading to decarbonization. So thank you so much to both of you. I request you to please stay for the quick Q&A session at the end of it. But now I think we will have to move on. So thank you for your contribution and look forward to discussing a little more slightly later. And with that, I now would like to invite our next speaker, Senthil Nathan. So Senthil, who is our Senior Manager for Sustainable Textiles Programs at Fairtrade India. He's undertaking quite a phenomenal program for the downstream into the textiles production and value chain with regards to reducing various resource footprints, but specifically focusing on decarbonization. So over to you, Senthil. I would love to hear about the work there.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thanks for inviting for this session. I'd like to share my PPT. Is my presentation visible to you?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon and good evening to everyone. So my name is Senthil Nathan, and I'm a senior program manager at Textile Sustainability. And I came from science background, bachelor in chemistry and master in MS environment science. So today I'm excited to present about how Fairtrade is supporting decarbonization and sustainability efforts in the textile industry, especially for MSME who often face unique challenges in transitioning toward greener practices. So let's start with a brief overview of the key challenges MSMEs encounter in adopting sustainability. Because based on our analysis, we could identify and understand that there are four major challenges MSMEs are facing, four major hurdles stand out particularly tough to overcome from the sustainable adoption of sustainability. So the first challenge is the lack of knowledge and awareness. So most of the MSMEs of lacking of understanding sustainable practices, carbon emissions, and global frameworks like carbon accounting and SBTI and CSRD. So they want what is the mean to them. So they want really to understand this kind of knowledge and awareness. And second is limited technical assistance. So they often don't have access to experts and tools needed for implementing the energy and water and chemical management strategies. And from brands and buyers, because they're getting brands and buyers are increasingly demanding full transparency in certifications and carbon data. So small facilities, it's find it tough to comply due to their limited capacities. And lack of financial support, shifting to sustainable infrastructure, the capital investment, which is difficult without access to green loans and subsidies. So these are the four major hurdles they are facing them to adopt the sustainability structures. And this is where Fairtrade steps in. So we offer tailored programs for MSMEs, recognizing their specific needs and growth aspirations. So we focus on trainings, awareness, as I said, trainings and awareness. So overall, so far we have provided 352 facilities. We have provided a facilities awareness and 247 facilities for training. So so far 550 participants participated, and we trained them for carbon and water and energy and carbon scope 1 to 3, like that. We have provided this kind of trainings. So, and not only that, because we already provided the trainings, Fairtrade's training methodologies follows an interactive workshop model, design a two-way conversations. It's not a one-sided lecture. So for each topic, one activity is demonstrated by an expert, by us, and another one activity the participant need to do it, the hands-on activity need to comply with the permissions itself. So it will be enabling them to replicate the later in their own factories. Because we did the carbon scope 1, 2, and 3, how to calculate and how to do the emission factors. So we did the activity for the session, and now we could understand that the participant is doing for their facility own carbon accounting. They are doing that. So it's quite happy to hear about they're doing by own based on our sessions. So as I said, it's a deep dive of training for GHE's carbon accounting, because decarbonization is, we are mostly focusing on scope 1 to 3. So we provide a clear and deep dive on scope 1, 2, and 3. And capacity building for, as I said, energy, water, wastewater, we have provided so far. So far we have provided carbon emissions and chemical management reductions and hazardous chemical handling and consumption reductions and energy reduction, and what are the new technologies available to reduce the energy in the facility processing, and wastewater reduction, and what is the failure root cause analysis. So these kind of trainings so far we have covered. Still we have around 3 to 5 trainings over here to provide in future. Not only that, because while providing the awareness and training, the participants have many clarifications. They can't able to get all clarity from the session itself. So we started a helpline support for the participant. They can call us anytime for the sustainability clarifications, and our expert will clarify all the doubts and clarifications in whatever the sustainability aspects. Maybe they want to know about the session, what emissions factors is this covered in the under scope 1 or 2 or 3, or how I need to reduce my energy factors in industry, how I need to reduce the water, what technology is available. So in any kind of sustainability support and certifications, we are supporting out of the awareness and training programs. So we are dedicated helpline support for them, so they can connect with us anytime. So far, we have received more queries from participants, and we are clarifying that. So along with that, so we have selected 35 factory evaluation we have completed in the aspect of carbon, energy, water, and wastewater and chemicals. So these 35 factories evaluation we have completed, and we identified what is the hotspot for the improvement in those facilities. So we identify the hotspot for the improvements to reduce the impact on future, how the factory, how we need uh, to discuss with them to reduce the impact on future, what technology is available to reduce these kind of impacts. So we are discussing with the facility to reduce the impacts on future. So we did the baseline derivations, because baseline derivation is per kg, maybe the dyeing industries, wet processing mills per kg, how much energy consumed per kg, and water and wastewater. Like the garment unit, so per garment, how much carbon how much carbon you emitted, how much energy you used for that, how much water you consume for this garment, how much wastewater you dispatch for this garment. So baseline derivation for a year, so we calculated for per garment or per kg how much the resources utilized, and then identify the opportunities for the improvement. So we provide the advanced technologies for the impact, reduce the impact in future, and following the facilities on monthly basis, how the consumption is monitoring and measuring, how the monitoring and measuring happen on the facility to achieve the target. So once the baseline fixed, so we did the baseline for energy, water, wastewater, and chemicals, and then we fixed the baseline for science-based target, how to achieve the target as per the SBTi methodology. So the MSMEs industry struggled on SBTi technology, so we supported mostly on to fix the baseline as well as how you have a plan for to achieve the target based on the SBTi methodologies. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about net zero transitions, because most of the EU retailers requested us for the net zero. So net zero means EU retailers request support in achieving net zero across their entire supply chain. In response, we adopted a comprehensive farm to fashion approach, covering all from tier 1 to tier 4. This included evaluations and baseline and target setting and definition and pilot technology adoptions, and ultimately traceability and transparency too, ensuring minimal disruption to the supply chain. For some brands, however, we have selected only tier 1 facilities to do this kind of evaluation and supporting process. So tier 1, tier 3 is, you know very well about the tier 1, tier 2. Tier 1 is the only finished production assembly, which is CMT, which we call it CMT unit. And tier 2 is a material production, and tier 3 is a raw material processing, and tier 4 is a raw material extraction. So farm to patients we cover towards net zero program. We identify the how much carbon they are emitting now and what support we can provide to reduce the impacts in future. So this is for not only today, this for future also. In future, so the European regulations, looking ahead, there are upcoming global regulatory shifts from MSME must prepare for this, like a digital product passport and life cycle assessment and product carbon footprint and EUDR and due diligence like CSRD, CSTBD, and HRD. These kind of regulation, the MSMEs should be ready for to meet these regulations well before coming the future. And because of, as I said before, those people's those MSME are struggling for the cost in infrastructure cost. So we are providing the awareness technology not only reduce the impact, how the impact reduction impacts and support for your cost saving also in this energy consumption area. Because if you are changing the one tube light to light LED. So work begins with ground level because switching from a tube light to the LED. So the consumption significantly from 172.8 kilowatts per hours to 288 rupees. So the electricity cost from LED and tube light, we compare that how the cost effective is compared to the environmental impact reduction as well as the cost reduction. So while you change the normal tube to LED, the cost reduction is 1,728 rupees from the 288 rupees. So this illustrates how environmental benefits translate directly to financial savings. So the MSMEs units are happy with that. So how we are providing not only the awareness training, how the cost also impact on the environmental impact reductions. Yeah. To wrap up, Fairtrade is enabling just a transition, ensuring MSMEs are not excluded from the green shift. So through education, capacity building, and practical tools like support from the pilot, and we are doing the journey to decarbonize and comply with the global expectations. We believe sustainability is not a compliance issue, but a business opportunity for MSME to build resilience and secure long-term growth. Thank you for your attention, and I welcome your question and answers. Questions and thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Senthil. Will any questions I would request, and I can see there are a few questions coming in the Q&A box. Please keep them pouring. We have now a case study. We would love to hear from the CEO of the Jaivel Impex, Mr. Vignesh Kumar Shaktivel, who's been involved in our fair trade programs at the textiles factories to kind of share his experience and how he's also moving towards decarbonization. So, Mr. Vignesh, over to you.
Hi, Abhishek. Thank you so much. I hope my voice is loud and clear.
Yes, we can hear you.
Before moving to the session, there is one question in the Q&A from Teresa. I like Senthil sir to answer this because I think the person is not clearly understanding what they are in. So the question is, Senthil sir, your session is about the Fairtrade cotton or Fairtrade textile program.
Yeah, I think we will address that. I think let's keep the questions coming. We have a significant amount of time at the end of it. I've taken note of it, so we will pick that up later. But first, we'd love to hear from you, Vignesh.
Thank you, and thank you, Fairtrade, for inviting me. It's actually a honor for me to speaking in this webinar. It's very important for me. So I represent MSME today. So I, Vignesh Kumar Shaktivel, CEO of the Jaivel Impex. We are manufacturer and exporter of hosiery garments. So we have various clients from Europe. For example, we are doing brands like Migros, Cake, TJ Maxx, etc. So we are small manufacturing enterprises, part of MSME. So, MSME is micro, small, medium enterprises is often refers to as the backbone of many economies. So it's like even in India or in Asia. So we are so proud on what we are doing, but we are also facing many challenges. Which are already explained in Sindhu's section. So the challenges of MSME, so especially when moving towards the sustainability. So MSME, we want to move in a greener path, but the challenges we are facing, unlike the factories like bigger corporations, so we lack in capitals, we lack in experts, we lack in investing in the carbon transfer technologies, modern technologies, or we lack in time to identify the carbon evaluations. So here is where the fair trade plays a main role. For example, when you take the sustainability goal number 3, so like a good health and well-being, so you cannot be healthy when you are consuming only the organic food. So you need to know what you are consuming, you need to know how much you are consuming. For example, if banana is good for health and you are consuming a lot, then the potassium gets settled. So once your body taken the enough potassium, then it all deposits as a stone. So here, why I'm telling you this, the education is very important. So similarly for MSME sectors, the education is very important. So here is where the fair trade is playing a major role. So fair trade conducting a lot of workshops. So as already explained in the previous session, so the workshops on scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. So here we are learning a lot of things. For example, we are also calculating the carbon emission in our factories, but we might not monitoring properly. We might not taking the exact data. We are might not measuring the data itself, or we are not monitoring the units. For example, kg instead of liter. So we are mixing with the units. So here we are learning from the fair trade workshops. So all the so the how to prefer the data, and what to do, where to do, and why to do. So this is very useful. So our factory is also evaluated, and we also receive the recommendations with capex and without capex. And also I want to speak about the sustainable clinic program. So the hotline number which they have mentioned. So when I received the recommendations in my evaluations, so in the recommendation, so I was very curious about the solar system. So they have recommended the solar. So I contacted the experts. So they connected me with the solar experts. So then the expert not only tell that we need to install solar rooftop solar panels. So they have clearly explained in detail, like you have this much space in rooftop, so you can produce this, but it is not sufficient. So the insufficient part, we look into this, your factories go through the opportunities. So wherever, so for example, you can put a sensors, then you can switch it off the light and on, then you can put a solar water heater so that it can reduce the consumption of boilers. So this is what we exactly need. So we need to bridge the gap between the knowledge gap. We need a right tool, we need a right experts in the systems. So we are also working for the FATA certification. So our brands are very happy. So our brands, when we provide the data, so like how much carbon we have emitted, so we are reducing, this is our baseline, this is our target, we have achieved this much target. The brands are very happy. They are promoting their products, they are marketing their products with all the data what we have provided. So we are not only the suppliers for them, we are also a solution provider for them. The sales is increasing. So the brands are very happy with the system. So yes, to the roadshow towards the sustainability has a lot of struggles for MSME especially. So with the right kind of program, for example, Switch Asia program, which we got evaluated ourselves, then with the Fairtrade network, then with the right experts. So we feel very confident enough to move towards this sustainability. So we always have one behind our shoulders to push us towards the sustainability in a right path. So yes, so we all like to go towards sustainability, and we are working so in a right way with Fairtrade, with the experts. So we like to contribute in meaningful way to the global. Yeah, thank you.
Super. Thank you so much, Vignesh,
Thank
for
you,
sharing
thank you,
your
Abhishek.
experience. And I think it's important to understand that, when we are talking about transition to green and sustainability and reducing GHG, whether you're today working with a large corporation or directly working with an MSME, even the large corporations are working with MSMEs in the value chain. So you cannot just say that, hey, since I'm working with the big businesses, the issues or problems of the MSMEs are not my concern. I think it's important to understand that MSMEs are there, in fact, are the backbone of the supply chain more often than not. And it's important, if we want this transition to happen, to understand the requirements of the MSME segment and the sector, and to contribute to addressing that. So thank you so much for your leadership in wanting to transition and to take these steps to greater sustainability. With that, we come to the end, to the formal presentations and discussion points. I would now like to invite all our panelists back. So if they can just turn on their video. We have already started receiving some questions in the Q&A box, and I will pick them up one by one and address them to the panelists. But in the meanwhile, if any of our attendees would like to ask questions directly, I would request you to just raise your hand, and one of the organizers will put the question across to you. So please raise your hand. There is a function at the bottom next to the chat and the share screen button, which is raise hand. And if you'd like to ask a live question, you would have an opportunity to do that. Hopefully, towards the end of this, we would still have some time to address that. So without further ado, I see that there were a lot of questions which related to what is happening on the ground, actually. So Nandaji, I think one of the questions you already addressed, which was with regards to what kind of trees were planted. I think you've shared that it was fruit trees, it was timber, as well as other indigenous trees. But the question is, are you aware whether these trees help reduce the temperature of the crops as well? Is that something that you have observed, or is that one of the side benefits that you have heard of?
No, the idea of putting diverse trees was not just getting some trees from outside or based on or not. We took the community's help. It is the tree species which are extinct there or which are grown there are brought into the field. The concept is you don't have a monoculture, you have a timber tree, you have a nitrogen fixing tree, and you have a fruit tree. That was the idea, and it is based on the local species, not anything brought from outside and introduced a foreign species into the land.
Okay,
Of
great.
course,
And a related
climate,
question to that, sir.
sorry,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
yeah. Regarding the climate part of it, they are just recently planted. I can tell about the weather changes only after 2-3 years when they start growing and they are quite big.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, and related to that, Nandaji, the question was around the saplings that have been planted recently in one of the programs. Has there been any kind of monitoring or support that you have done after the sapling distribution to the farmers? Is there any follow-up that's happening over there?
Yes, we have. Our team is constantly monitoring that. We also ensured that tree guard is put to those trees because they are small saplings. They will be, damaged by grazing by these animals. And also now there's last couple of months the sunshine is more, temperatures are more. To protect that, tree guard is there, and our staff are monitoring that.
Super, great. Thank you so much, Nandaji. I'd like to just sticking to this topic around the research as well as what is happening on the ground. I think Tamara has asked us what is the difference between FOIC farmers and the fair trade organic farmers. So just to share that FOIC farmers represent the larger set. They include fair trade organic farmers, but also have the in-conversion organic farmers who are also Fairtrade certified within our sample. So those would be, so it's a larger sample set, but it does cover the Fairtrade organic farmers as well. And then we took out separately the Fairtrade organic farmers who are also within that sample set. And if you're using Fairtrade GOTS certified, GOTS of course is referring to the process further up the value chain. They would invariably be connected with a Fairtrade certification scheme at the farm level. And in that case, if you're using Fairtrade and organic cotton, then the Fairtrade organic data set directly would be most applicable to your work. So just to provide that clarification, if you're using Fairtrade conventional cotton, in that case, you would refer to the FOIC data set. So I think that's how the segregation would happen, because if you're not explicitly asking for organic certification, then the groups may be supplying in conversion cotton as well. So that's how the segregation of the data would happen. Another question from Teresa is, how do you define, have we defined the CO2 emission factors for Fairtrade cotton compared with conventional and organic cotton? I think at this stage, we've just taken the first step towards it to kind of define that. We are looking into conducting another piece of research where we would be able to separate or decouple the organic versus the fair trade impact. So this has got to have a slightly different orientation to it. And then based on that, we would be hopefully able to give the emission factors specifically for fair trade cotton. But at this stage, what we have got is what is the carbon footprint of the cotton that you're buying from India. I think that aspect has been established, and the sample size is sufficiently robust to take that even at a producer group level. But there we need to get the data rights and data protection policies being followed for the specific producer organization. And you can ask the spinners in your value chain who could hopefully help get that specific data and connect with the producers to get that specific data. So, I hope that answers that question as well. I think, Senthil, you've already taken the question with regards to, what are we referring to here with regards to, I think Teresa had asked us a question with whether this was Fairtrade Cotton or Fairtrade Textiles program that we were referring to. And as you said that, we are actually referring to what is happening at the manufacturing level. Just to provide additional context, one of the reasons why we're showcasing these programs, and these programs are currently being co-funded or funded by the European Union government under the Switch Asia program, which Fairtrade International, along with Fairtrade Germany, Fairtrade France, and Fairtrade India are doing collaboratively. The idea of showcasing these programs is that, they are piloting ways in which this integrated Fairtrade approach, building on the Fairtrade certification and traceability model, can be deployed, and how tangible results are being kind of offered to the factories and the brands associated with those factories. So I think these are more in the context of pilots. We have already been in touch with a number of the brands which are Fairtrade certified and labeled in Germany and France. So basically, these programs are helping them. We're hoping to come back towards the end of this year with more concrete data on the impact from these evaluations. So that's one thing. Today, we are able to undertake these pilot programs because of the support from the Switch Asia, but this is to showcase the capability and the approach, which if any other brand would like to take on, we can have a discussion on that to see how this could be taken up in collaboration with the NFOs in your countries. So yeah, that was the idea of showcasing this today. I think, I see that there is a hand raised. Could we maybe get a live question instead of just hearing my drony voice? Yeah, so I think one of our organizers is going to give you access to speak. So please do ask a question straight away as you're given the opportunity to speak. Srijini, how are we doing there?
Hello, Mr. Ramaswamy, you can ask your question.
Yeah, you will have to unmute yourself. Once you're given the right to speak, you please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you have to unmute yourself and ask the question.
Okay. We are waiting for Mr. Ramaswamy to ask a question. Okay, as he comes online, maybe in the meanwhile, we can take another question, which is already in the chat box, Q&A box. Nandaji, again to you, there is a question that has come from Andy. This is addressing more the conversation around the effects of climate change. So his question is, based on the less predictable monsoon cycles of the last 5 years, do you see this erratic rain becoming more critical factor over the next 5 years? And how do you see that affecting cultivation, where 100% of the cultivation, especially in areas like Orissa, which is rain-fed, do you think that would then become unsustainable or non-viable in some ways?
One, it's a good question. The La Nina and El Nino impacts, nobody can tell, because if you see 5 years down the line, at least one of these component was there. Now, the last 1 year, you're seeing sometimes it's La Nina, sometimes it's El Nino. Both are coming in within a period of time. So there is a erratic climate change pattern. And there are various reasons which many people know, and nobody can predict what is going to happen. In this given situation, where farmers are producing agricultural practices depending on the rains. Organic farming and regenerative practices, which is one of the best practices where you try to use the natural resource which is given in a period of time and cultivate the crops, reduce the cost of cultivation. And as per the changing climatic scenarios, the farmers need to adapt to the farming systems also and start growing multiple crops rather than focusing on one or two cash crops. So it should be a combination of cash crops and food grains to sustain their farming activities.
Super, thank you. So yeah, I think the effects of climate change are not unidirectional, clearly, as Nandaji just explained, it's quite erratic. And I would say that also hopefully, and I know that at Chetna also, the micro weather station, which Manoj had referred to, is being piloted. So we are hoping that we use technology to serve the farmers better and help them to address some of these challenges linked to these erratic rainfalls and formulate strategies based on hopefully getting better understanding of how the climate change is affecting them. So, and of course, diversification and nature-based solutions are certainly some of the best ways to address that. So thank you, Nandaji, for sharing that, that the approach that is taking place here. I have a couple of questions which are specifically related to the research. So one question is around any research done on the groundwater. I think what we have done is we've had to do some calculations to understand whether there is a lot of groundwater being extracted or not. A lot of the farmers are in the rain-fed areas, particularly in Telangana and Odisha region. And so therefore we are able to, we were able to measure the water footprint. And the water footprint, by the way, is referring to water which is extracted or is not referring to the rain-fed water, just to be clear. That's the methodology that Cool Farm tool uses with regards to measuring the water footprint. So that's one of the factors where you can see that there is less of fresh water being used or the blue water being used in the fair trade FOIC, as well as in the fair trade organic cultivation practices. So I think that's a question. Then there is another repeat around that question, difference between FOIC farmers and organic farmers. In the results, there are no figures of only Fairtrade-certified. That is correct. This is basically because most of the farmers today, if you were to buy your cotton from India, most of the farmers, more than 90% of the farmers, are either already organic or are in conversion to organic. So from that perspective, even if you're buying fair trade conventional cotton from India today, there is a very high probability that it would be coming from one of the groups which is already either in conversion process or is already probably having to supply organic cotton as fair trade conventional cotton. So from that perspective, that's why we're saying that this result holds. Because this is representing the cotton cultivation today, which is already either in conversion or already organic, and so therefore is captured in the FOIC farmer data set. We are looking into future research where we will try to decouple it through other methodologies, because clearly just a control versus what is the fair trade cotton is not possible, and there wasn't sufficient sample of just fair trade conventional cotton to just measure that separately, just to clarify that point as well. So I think that is why the research is capturing that. Hopefully that answers that question. There is a question on biochar from Teresa. So Manoj, the question is that biochar technology comes from burning especially only one part of the crop, and which is correct. It comes from burning the residue. As Nandaji also talked about, it's got a high fiber content. And could you explain how that is resulting in reducing the GHG? I guess that's the technique that is being followed, right?
Yeah, Abhishek. Actually, it is mainly the burning of the crop residue in absence or limited presence of oxygen. So this is called as pyrolysis. So once this process is applied, so then the carbons are really trapped. So whatever the carbon is there, so it's trapped, and then all other volatile materials will be exhausted, and only the carbon what is that is trapped so can be measured, and it is always advisable to apply with compost. So it's not advisable to apply the biochar in sole method, but it's always in a combination of uh, biochar plus compost. So this is the way it should be done. So any unused parts or any waste residues, any farm waste can be converted into biochar. So any twigs or any branches or anything dried material or any dried leaves, anything that's waste, farm waste or any residue of a plant can be converted into biochar.
Super. Thank you, Manoj. Yeah. And just to clarify, this is not a new technique or technology. This has been extensively researched to the point, I mean, there are over 100 research papers on biochar and its impact and effects. And we are working with some of the people who are pioneering the application of biochar in agriculture, in cotton use. And we are also understanding that there are some cases where we have carbon credits being generated through the production of biochar. So there is that carbon offset clearly, which is there, which is reducing the GHG emissions as opposed to, let's say, open air burning. Or even, in fact, a surprising fact is that when cotton is left, the residue is left collected and left on the farm, that emits more emissions actually than sometimes even crop residue burning. So, these are facts coming from the Cool Farm tool. And so the creation of biochar and then application of that into the farm is seen as one of the best ways to address this GHG emission aspect for residue management and has a positive effect for the soil health. So again, I hope that answers that question. There is another question from Michaela about the research and whether this can be communicated to GOTS. We would welcome that, and we look forward to also collaborating with GOTS. The research as such is already published, and we can happily share more details if required by GOTS. Okay, I think we're coming to the tail end, and there are literally 2 questions here, unless there's something else coming up through the live Q&A. I don't see. I still see Mr. Ramaswamy Rajendran. Sir, would you like to ask your question? Just to check again, you have your hand raised. You can unmute yourself, sir, and we'd be happy to hear your question. Okay. I don't know if that is clear to Mr. Ramaswamy. Okay, fine. So I think we'll probably have to take it offline later with him. And there's a question from Mr. Rakesh saying, have you studied eutrophication potential in this research? No, we didn't follow the LCA approach. As I said, we were following the Delta framework. And so therefore, eutrophication was not within the scope of our research. As I said, we are looking at other research to be conducted in the future where we could look into some of these factors as well to see how we can address it. So the short answer to that is, sorry, we've not studied that within the scope of this research. It was focusing more on the Delta framework and focusing more on the Cool Farm tool methodology. There is a question from Celestine regarding explaining, is there any lower water footprint? What is the link between irrigation type and fertilizer type use? Yeah, I think water footprint lower, one aspect of that is the fact that this refers to the application of fresh water. So rainfall per se is not counted within the scope of the water footprint. And one of the reasons why there is a lower footprint within a lot of the rain-fed regions. But what we also see is that on an average, compared to the control group in the research, even where the control groups were in the same regions which were rain-fed, we had lower water application. So I assume this is to do with the training, and also there is an objective, more of a development criteria for better water management practices adopted by farmers. So I think that's where we were seeing the outcomes of that represented in the research. Okay, and then the question is, as sellers of organic Fairtrade cotton fabrics, how should we make it possible to tell the story of this project for the final end consumers here in Europe? How did the farmers live this study? How do they feel about it? Happy, optimistic regarding their future? Great question. So I think there are many ways in which the research can be applied. I think one aspect of it is that there is this data which is now available at an aggregate level. Of course, we have to ensure that we comply with whatever legislations are relevant for green claims. But from an overall data point available, I think we have something today to say that if your cotton is coming from the supply chain, this is what independent research is showcasing. The application of research for the farmers actually has been far, far more encouraging. I think they have really embraced it. They are using this to see how they can improve their practices. They are planning, they are using it for interventions, using the premium, they're using it for creating programs. And so this has been helpful for them. And I think in some cases where we are even piloting the new technologies like biochar to look at carbon credits, they're seeing that as maybe an additional income opportunity, but we're being all very careful about it because we don't know how that is going to play out and what those values would be. So there are different ways in which this research is being applied. So it's been very encouraging, and the producers have been really supportive and are fully behind it. And so that's one of the positive outcomes. So yeah, thank you so much. I think we are now wrapping up. We are coming to the hour and a half actually now. So thank you all for your participation. I'd like to take this opportunity again to thank all the panelists for taking their time, for sharing their insights about the work that they're doing, how the Fairtrade programs are supporting the decarbonization in their value chain. I hope all the attendees have got a good sense of programmatic interventions, as well as where the standards are, as well as where the data is within the Fairtrade cotton value chain, and how this can help them with their decarbonization programs. The research is published on the Fairtrade International website. Our program is being conducted in India, and Senthil is leading the program further down the value chain on the textiles, where we're working with young MSME entrepreneurs like Mr. Vignesh. Our producers like Mr. Nanda Kumar are really pioneering and piloting a number of new initiatives, and so we're encouraged how they are really taking on this huge challenge forward, with great support from our colleagues from NAP and Manoj supporting the cotton producers there. So I'd like to thank everybody here and end this webinar. And we have recorded this, and we hope to have this available for those of our colleagues who've not been able to join. But thank you so much once again, and look forward to continuing the good work. Thank you all.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.